One of my teachers had a very good definition of luck, which I find it very empowering. Because usually luck is disempowering, right? Which means you have no control over it. In Tamil, luck happens to be the phrase for that is Adrishtam. It comes from a Sanskrit word.
Which you cannot see?
Exactly.
Kumaran Anandan, I think he's one of the most visited and he always graciously accepts my request for these kind of conversations. What is learning strategy and what exactly you think? What is strategy in a very simplistic way, which not like what we always discuss, filled with LinkedIn, podcast? What do you think strategy is?
Now that you're done, okay, great. Okay, so I have a strategy in place. Is it a good strategy or a bad strategy? How would we know? You won't know. You will never know. In your case, when will you know you had a good strategy?
I mean, if you don't implement, then you can only make the best judgment call, right?
Okay, so the fact that it didn't get executed, it's obvious it's a poor strategy.
Poor strategy. For example, in training, you do all the good things, but at the race, if you do not perform, as you rightly mentioned, either it's a bad strategy or you just try to find some loopholes that day wasn't good, weather was not good, or I was not feeling good, my training was all good. So how to deal with that? I mean, when we try to execute things, as you mentioned, some things do not go, as we took the example of protein, and then we change the strategy and then try to do this. The question is, if those things happen, there are two sets of thinking. One is, do I have to change my strategy or do I have to push hard? How exactly to make that distinction that this is the right time to change the strategy versus this is my own figment of imagination, so my self-doubt or fear factor which is bringing in?
For example, you and I are in this call. Is it by design? We were born to lucky parents. We were one of the lucky sperms among the millions which survived. One. And second, we got born in a house where they could give us education. If we were born to a tribal family, what would we be doing?
Yes, exactly.
Now, how are we low on luck? It's a wrong thing to say I'm not lucky. The fact that you are alive itself, you are 1 in a million lucky person.
What most of the people miss is how to communicate, how to articulate, right time, right way, how to land the strategy, which basically stems the core things what we started discussing, right? That's how I was thinking. What's your perspective if the strategy is already and how do we land it? What are the key components of making that? What are those recipes to make that dish really flavorful for the audience?
Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk.
I know it's always the case. You say, especially in the US, we always like, hey, how are you? And people are like, hey, yeah, I'm good. How are you? That's it, right? But there's no actual intention of really asking, how are you? I think in that way, I know I was running late. But thanks again for this impromptu conversation and welcome everyone. If you are watching Let's Talk podcast today, whoever has been kind of associated with me and connected with me on LinkedIn, I have some conversations about a thing which I was thinking for a while. In Microsoft, I work a lot of things on strategy. And I think one of the core skills or core things which I have to think is how to land the things in a way how I think. Also, how to land in the way that it really makes sense to the recipient and also be effective considering some of the brain science, human psychology, and their current state of mind. So there are a lot of things which comes into the picture. An effective way of telling those strategy in a simplistic way, not fill too much of technical jargons or the way where people require more brain processing. And because that also brings a lot of their own challenges. So I always say, and I think if someone in my Microsoft listens to this, one of my favorite quote or the way of saying is, we always are information rich and decision poor. So we always have so much of things, but again, the status quo remains the same. So that being said, I know one of these leading minds, which I always follow, and one of the person who is today is Kumaran Anandan. I think he's one of the most visited and he always graciously accepts my request for these kind of conversations. So Kumaran, let's discuss about this. What is learning strategy and what exactly you think? What is strategy in a very simplistic way, which not like what we always discuss, filled with LinkedIn, podcast? What do you think strategy is?
Let's discuss the concrete example. It becomes a lot more easy.
Yes.
And something which is very generic. Not maybe exactly that generic, but still. You're a runner. What's your goal? I mean, let's say, what's your next goal?
to run faster than my current time. I mean, some of the runners, that is my goal, is to be more efficient, fast, and gain time. I mean, that may be one of the ways.
So if you have to make it a little more specific.
Yes. So, for example, right now, my best time is 3 hours, 28 minutes, which is 42 kilometers or 26.2 miles. If I do in 3 hours, 27 minutes, some seconds, that would be that I'm growing. I mean, that is one of my target, to be better, efficient, and faster.
Perfect. So specificity of the goal is the first step.
Yes.
So previously what you said was good, but this one nails it. I want to get better than 3 hours, 27 minutes. Ideally, I would like to get it down to 3 hours, 20. 3 hours, 15 is a bonus. 3 hours, 5 minutes or anything below 3 hours, 5, I will be on cloud 9. Okay.
Yeah. I know it's not possible for me, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, on the lighter side. Yes.
So that's the first step, right? The goal is very clear in mind. Okay. Then comes the strategy part. Now, there are many things associated with it. Fitness, training, how you train with, what's your mindset. So many things are associated with it. So they are different facets of it. So the strategy, so let's say if I have to strategize, you would say, I'm going to do training this way. I'm going to eat this way. And training again involves fitness, muscle strength, could be different parts of your fitness. For my mind, there's a lot of mental struggle that happens when you're running. Something in the beginning, something in the middle, something towards the end. Your mind keeps shifting and you should be ready for that. So you can say there is a fitness strategy for this. There is a training strategy for this. There is a mental preparation strategy for this. And there are some people who prefer to train in groups. When I used to run, I'm a lone wolf. I don't like anybody else with me. Now, these are, I would say, strategy. Okay, so let's take a pause there. Okay, a large strategy could have many strategies under it.
So sorry to interrupt, just to make sure. So basically what he's saying so far, what we have discussed is strategy is creating a specific target.
For a target, you have an approach.
Okay.
Now, the approach is not good enough because the strategy doesn't talk about actions. And without actions, nothing happens. Only when you take an action, you know whether the result happens or not. So people usually call it tactics, actions, whatever, but semantics could be anything. But the basic strategy is like a theme, guideline kind of a thing that you have. And then you take specific actions towards milestones, many goals, which eventually take you to the final thing. So, for example, it could be that every week I will do 2 hours of strength training, 2 hours of endurance, and maybe 1 hour on speed. Then on the other front, you would say, I would increase my protein intake and reduce my fat intake. Things like that. So how do you map it? So if I kind of share, if a tool is really needed, okay, so this is one thing which I think is a business model canvas is one of the most fundamental stuff that you take. Now let's take running. Okay. So if you take running here, I would actually say something like, who's the customer? I am the customer. So, okay, your strategy should address most of these boxes. Okay. So that's a way you can check whether you have a strategy in place or is it missing something. Okay. Now, what would be the cost? This could be time and money, both. Okay. Key partnership. Are you going to do it by yourself or do you need your family support, friend support? Who all would you need? That would be the key listics. Okay. What would be the key activities that you're doing? What are the key resources? What's the value proposition? You're going to do it in, let's say, 3 hours, 10 minutes is my value proposition. What are my channels? Your channels are going to be fitness, food. Okay. Revenue is yourself, me, right? So the customer segment is going to be me. And interestingly, your family is also a customer because they're going to let you go and practice, right? The moment you go out and say, oh, Papa nahi hai, main kya karu? Then you're done for, right? So you got to keep that. You got to have a strategy for that in place. Saturday mornings, I'm going to trek. Evenings, I'll take you out for pizza or a movie, whatever. You need to have that in place. Now, revenue streams in this case is a little tricky. Okay, I would probably say what would be the results that you would get for doing this. So it could
maybe
be like
if I'm like top 3 to finish, then maybe I'll get some money, monetary.
I would actually look at it that way. Okay, so I would put that under probably value proposition. Revenue streams would be, I got in 3 hours of training per week. Okay. I got in 30 calories of calories of protein, lesser fat, something like that. Okay. So this is one thing in which I think this is one of the most simplest ways to validate whether your strategy how complete is it? Completeness of a strategy. Have I thought about all the facets?
Yes.
A lot of
Okay.
times, some of these things gets missed when the strategy is being put in place.
Okay, got it. So that's good. So obviously, in the core, the strategy is, first of all, you should be having a target, and then you try to create a strategy. What would be your approach looks like, and in that approach, you have to bucketize in certain, like what is a revenue, what is a value proposition, and other things which you mentioned. That gives you a clarification on why am I doing this, why this particular target is even approachable or not, based on all the metrics and KPIs you are reviewing.
And
on
what are
this.
the other components that has to be addressed for you to reach your goal successfully?
Okay.
What are the different components? So
Got it.
key partnerships, for example, right? Like let's say you're rolling out a new security update. Okay. Did we actively get the buy-in of the office administrators? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's usually an afterthought, for example, or the end users like that. Again, end users are not one, right? You have different personas over there.
Yes.
So key partnerships, who do I need to do with them? Now that you're done, okay, great. Okay, so I have a strategy in place. Is it a good strategy or a bad strategy? How would we know? You won't know. You will never know. In your case, when will you know you had a good strategy?
I mean, if you don't implement, then you can only make the best judgment call, right? Based on all the things which you are talking about, the approach and all, what it makes sense. But again, still, it's in the air. Until you take action and land, you don't know whether that strategy will really work.
So when can you definitively say, I got a good strategy? Let's take your running example. When? At what time? At what point?
I think it can be an incremental. For example, like in running analogy, if whatever I have decided on the day one and the approach, and I start implementing it, and if I see that really yields some results or approaching towards my results, that I'm improving, my running is improving, my heart rate is always down, I have less injuries, for example, those things will show that my strategy is working, which will possibly yield to get to my target, what I'm aiming for.
Perfect. Okay. But in the ideal world, people wait till the delivery date and you haven't reached it. And then you say, and nobody blames the strategy also. People just blame the execution.
Yes.
Okay. So the fact that it didn't get executed, it's obvious it's a poor strategy.
Poor strategy.
It didn't account for, let's say, these 10 people resisted to it, or I didn't get funding. Too bad. You didn't account for that in your strategy. So it's a bad strategy. It's not a good strategy, not executed. It's a bad strategy. That's why it didn't get executed.
Yes.
Very clear it is, right? If it's good strategy, it should have worked.
It always
Because
works.
it's not good strategy, it didn't work. Very simple. You can't say good strategy didn't get executed properly. No, that's an oxymoron.
And I think that is also very, when you, for example, in training, you do all the good things, but at the race, if you do not perform, as you rightly mentioned, either it's a bad strategy or you just try to find some loopholes that day wasn't good, weather was not good, or I was not feeling good. My training was all good. So how to deal with that? I mean, so what point are we trying to make? Is it like good strategy is only good enough if it executes well, but in the whole journey, what about that? If the journey is good?
What you said is very important. So at every point in time, the closer you are checking, you have to check whether the intermediate milestones, the shorter they are they happening? If they are not, be humble enough and go revise your strategy.
Okay.
We get too stuck on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take this. Let's take a simple example that I'm going to have 300 grams of protein every day. You come home, open the fridge, paneer is not there, assuming you're a vegetarian. Okay, what happened? You forgot to order it. Okay, or somebody else came, ate whatever you ordered and went off. Okay, so now you got to say, or you say that the stock market or the market nearby has run out of it, or the whoever delivers your protein, right, the shop's closed, or you're not able to go because you're having late meetings, then you got to say, this is not going to work. I can't have protein. And then you quickly shift and you let go. But people usually say, no, I just have to push harder. No, today I missed. Tomorrow I will go extra 3 miles, go to that shop and bring it and come. And then you go there, okay? You will go. Next day you will have motivation, you will go, okay? But then by the time you go and come, you realize that 10 minutes that you had planned between 2 meetings became 1 hour and you had to reschedule a meeting. Day after, the thought of going to that shop will kill you, okay? So you cannot go to that thing. Okay. So you change your strategy to say, whoever, your kids, wife, you cajole them, you add them as a key partner, and then you say, can you get me protein, please?
Yes.
Okay, so then you got to swing it further and you got to give something to them. And so they were never a part of your strategy, but something happened in middle and you changed it. So a good strategy is one which is malleable and open for change and closer to reality. And I always tell myself this probably 10 times, 20 times a day. If I argue with reality, I might have told this to you. Never ever argue with reality. If you argue with reality, you will always surely, most definitely lose. Don't be a loser. Don't argue with reality.
Yes. Okay. So let me try to be a devil's advocate because that's what I just want to make sure. So the first thing is, as you mentioned, that the strategy should be malleable. Now, when we try to execute things, as you mentioned, something do not go, as we took the example of the protein, and then we change the strategy and then try to do this. The question is, if those things happen, there are two set of thinking. One is, do I have to change my strategy or do I have to push hard? Because this may be something I'm thinking because I thought it through. My strategy is all right. And changing would mean that maybe I'm kind of fear. Fear has included, or maybe some of the self-doubt has included in that. How exactly to make that distinction that this is the right time to change the strategy versus this is my own figment of imagination, so my self-doubt or fear factor which is bringing in.
It's a tough dilemma everybody faces. And I don't think
Yes.
I don't have an answer for that.
So how you
Like,
feel? I mean, maybe like how you
persevere or pivot, right? In
Yes.
anything. Right?
anything. Yes.
This is general dilemma in everything that we face. Okay. So you get a little more objective about it. And then you say, okay, is this an exception? Fair enough. I will push forward. Now let's say I wanted to measure my protein intake every week. Okay. And something like this has happened. I missed a week. Now I actually reduce my checking time from 1 week to every day. And then see, can I execute it every day? So in 3 days you miss it, then you know you're smoking pot.
Yes.
You got to really change it. The reality is something else. So go back to hard data. And what is data? Of results of action being executed. So whatever measurement time that you had set initially, once a week, once it goes wrong, you become hyper-focused on that point and you start monitoring it daily. And you say, I'm going to check for the next 3 days and see if I can push through. 3 days you're able to push through. Great. Next 3 days, I'm going to monitor it. You hit it for a week and you say, okay, looks like this will work. Check next week. 3 days it messes up. I think the answer becomes obvious. Reality is
So I
something
think
else.
what you're saying is trial and error, right? Try to check things and see whether it's working. Make a note of data so that you can also have some analytical information and not human cognitive biases comes into picture. Because today I'm feeling good, that's why I just want to rule the world. And tomorrow I'm feeling depressed, so I'm good for nothing. So instead of those things, I think we have to get the data along with that, as you rightly mentioned. And I think that's where a lot of things happen in a trial and error. A lot of things crack things in the first trial and they're deemed as genius. And some people are like trying multiple times and they will be like, see, an ordinary person can do wonders as well. So this also have a lot of the way how we review things and being narrative. And obviously luck is important as well because there are a lot of people. You cannot just say that hard work and everything will definitely yield success. It depends on what exactly you're looking and whom you're talking about success. For one person, $1 million is a success. As the venture capitalists, they have kind of pulled it into their startup, and some people it would be nothing.
One of my teachers had a very good definition of luck, which I find it very empowering, because usually luck is disempowering, right? Which means you have no control over it. So in Tamil, luck happens to be the phrase for that is Adrishtam. It comes from a Sanskrit word.
Which you cannot see?
Exactly. Okay. So basically it means the unknown factor. That will always be there.
Yes.
Okay. Once you see it, it's not luck anymore. So unknown factors are dime a dozen. And that's reality. So let it be. It's fine. It's okay. You cannot anyway do anything about it. So don't sweat over it.
Yes.
If it's going to help you, it's going to help you. It's going to screw you. It's going to screw you. So be it.
Exactly. Got it. So,
okay. And also, the other thing that he said is we miss a lot of things that is obvious. For example, you and I are in this call. Is it by design? We were born to lucky parents. We were one of the lucky sperms among the millions which survived. One. And second, We got born in a house where they could give us education. If we were born to a tribal family, what would we be doing?
Yes, exactly.
Now, how are we low on luck? It's a wrong thing to say I'm not lucky. The fact that you are alive itself, you are 1 in a million lucky person.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is very empowering to me. I never worry that luck won't help me. The fact that I'm able to try something itself is I'm lucky.
That's a part of the gratitude, right? Like you have to understand what you already have.
And it's scientific. It's probability. Among a million sperms, one, I survived. That's luck. That's actual data.
That's actually. It's all about like what kind of lens you're looking for. So coming back to this, so far what we have discussed is obviously you should have first you have a target, then you have an approach, then you have to do some trial and errors, make micro efforts to
I
yield-
would
get into
rather
that.
use the word experiment, which is little more empowering
experiment.
than trial and error.
Got it.
Right? I don't want to do an error, right? Why do I want to do an error?
It's experiments. Yes, rather.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So some people also like say, don't say failure, say experiments, which
Yeah.
didn't work. So, right. So yeah, we also, we do experiments and get into the thing. Now let's get to that point where, okay, I got my strategy right. I got all the framework as we discussed. I got all the things, how to articulate it. So far, it's in my mind.
Mm.
I'm all happy. I'm all excited. I'll just storm the world. This is the best thing possible. Now, what most of the people miss is how to communicate, how to articulate, right time, right way, how to land the strategy, which basically stems the core things what we started discussing, right? That's how I was thinking. So what's your perspective if the strategy is already and how do we land it? What are the key components of making that? What are those recipe to make that dish really flavorful for the audience?
Common sense and the old adage goes, which is usually uncommon.
Yes.
So, like, let's take the protein example, right? Let's say you have to convince your teenager. I don't know whether your kids are teenagers. How old are they?
No, not 9 years. Yeah.
9 years. Assume they were a teenager. Okay. And you have to convince a teenager to go and get you protein. Do they really care whether you finish in 3 minutes or 3:20 or 3:25 or 3:24? They give a damn. It's your
exactly.
problem, right?
Yes.
So then you don't have to talk all that to them. To them, you have to tell what matters to them. So it could be something like, hey, if your dad is happy, he will take you out Saturday evenings for a movie. And your dad only will be happy he does a morning training well. That's all they need to know. We make them sit and put this grand plan, PPT, and I say, running 42 miles is so hard. It requires fitness, it requires protein, it requires strength training. By the time you get to the point where you have to buy protein, they have lost, they don't have anything in their head.
Yes.
So in my enthusiasm to show how good I make a strategy, why am I telling all this to everybody?
Yes.
It sounds a little paradoxical to say everybody should be bought in. No, everybody cannot be bought in. They are in their own worlds.
They're in their own world. Yeah. And this is a cruel reality that everyone sees their own interest first, no matter who that person is.
That's how it would be, right? My like even professionally, if you look at it, safety of me, safety of my team, safety of my department, safety of my company, then rest of the others. Or rather, in business, it comes the other way around. Safety of the shareholders is the first. If it's a publicly listed company, then it's the other. So I think we have to be, it will be good if everybody has the big picture, but that's disconnected from reality.
Yes. Okay. So basically what you're saying right now is, first of all, your strategy don't land the same narrative or same way of emoting or communicating to different people because it may land differently, and you have to be cognizant of the fact that each and every person, whether it's your family, friends, or in the corporate world, they want to satisfy their own individual needs and what's in it for me before, before getting
Correct.
into
So
what's
if you
in
look
it
at
for you.
that key partnership where you have key partnerships, right? So that strategy or whatever part, so each key partner should have a strategy and that should be beneficial to them also. That's what matters to them. Eventually, everything will fall into place.
Okay. Can you expand that? Like,
Okay.
if I'm in a corporate world and I have a strategy and there are multiple departments.
Yeah. So let's take a example of compliance, right? Like, let's say you have to finish, let's say the mandatory training, ethical training has to be done. So when you go to that person, you would actually tell them you don't want to get fired for submitting a false claim. So complete the training. And this is the easy way to complete the training. That's all.
That's all. Yeah.
We have to get socks too is irrelevant to them.
Yes.
How does it matter to a person working as a lower division clerk in a finance department? Okay, finance or at least TK. Okay, accept. Somebody who's working as a low-end developer or a sales executive sitting in a counter, whether your SOX 2 compliant or not, how does it matter to them? They won't even get it. You have to complete this training so that company has to get SOX 2. Okay, I'll see what I can do about it.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this. If we are talking about when we're talking about a lot of people in the company, you have to start some baselining, right? You cannot have so much of, I would say, customization of the way how you land. First, there should be a baseline for everyone that this is the strategy. And then maybe on different departments or different areas, time zone, whatever the case may be, we can then try to customize it to that level. How do you say that part people have to consider in landing? Like, do I have to make a very flashy, good PPT or simplistic words or start with why? Like, Simon Sinek
Okay, so
always
let's
say.
take that example of what you're telling, right?
Hmm.
Let's say you have a department, purchase department, okay? Purchase department in a multinational company. Now, there's a purchase department in India, there's a purchase department in UK, there's a purchase department in Turkey, there's a purchase department in Russia, and there's a purchase department in US, and there's a purchase department in Nigeria. Each one will need a different strategy to have a clean purchase. It cannot be the same. Dynamics of Nigeria and India and US and Germany are completely different.
Yes. Okay. But the
It
goal
cannot-
can be the same, right? In a way that this is the number you have to meet
Yeah,
for
so-
your respective regions. Yeah.
So basically, it would be something, for example, it is something like my strategy is to identify the cheapest vendor, for example, right? I want to reduce the cost. So you're going to help the other teams get things at a lower cost. Now, let's say and you have to get it from a government department. So the strategy of how to get things done from a government department, you have to get some material and you have to get sanctions for that. Now, how that will work in India will be very different from how it works in UAE.
Yes.
It has to be a different strategy. It cannot be same. And that kind of delegation requires effort. Now, this is what the senior execs needs to do. Communicate to them, we have to reduce the cost and help them come up with a strategy at their own level.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what is a North Star and define a strategy around it rather than this is a strategy and now define your action.
And it has to be and acknowledge the fact that I will not design one strategy for all departments or all purchase departments. Now, when I'm telling this, it's very obvious. But in the thick of things when you're running it, let's take a micro example. You have a team of 20 people, okay? And your strategy is to refactor code. A 2-year developer, a fresher, a 10-year guy, a 15-year guy will take the message very differently. The guy working on the database, it's a different world of refactoring. The guy who's working in the front end is a different way of working. All of them need different approaches.
Yes. So let me again try to make it a devil's advocate because I'm just trying to think if what people might be asking, right? Everyone needs a different approach, but we cannot scale this in most of the scenarios sometimes because how much customization can I do? So if I'm sitting on a senior leadership position and I have to make a global strategy and then obviously the local strategy should be there. Or I'm just taking as a global, there might be some other flavors within the local strategy as well. Like if you're talking about, for example, we say Asia Pacific, then you have different countries that it's again has their own complexity. So I have to land some strategy on a higher scale, on a larger scale and communicate to everyone that this is what we are trying to achieve. Then how exactly that
in this case, if we continue with this example, I don't have to communicate to everyone. I have to communicate to the procurement heads of every geography. I don't need to do a town hall. I mean, I have to do it. It's a kind of a sanity check, but don't rely on that. That's just something that you have to do because it has to be done.
Yes. Okay.
It is like the Graha Pravesh that we do when we go inside a house. Doesn't mean you're going to have a happy home after that.
Yeah.
I did Graha Pravesh, so I will live happily ever after. Nahi hota, it doesn't happen.
Yes. You are right. Okay.
So then then the point comes is tying back to our checks. So you give the country procurement head of India, this is my concept. I want you to strategize. Then the senior exec should sit with them and validate their strategy. Even after doing all this, we have only done 30% of the work. Then it comes on measuring the actions and then again keep changing it at every level.
Yeah, got it. So I think, I don't know if that analogy is good, but again, I think your North Star is like your sun, and all your actions and internally it would be the planetary motion around this and their own satellites and all. Like they're doing a lot of things, but eventually if we just zoom out, we all are like circling around a star called sun, which is our North Star. Okay. Got it. I think that's good. That helps me to always reinforce and clarify a few things. And I hope people get some clarification as well. Obviously, I can go on and on, but I just want to make sure it's not that long enough that people get. But again, if someone would like to expand on this, they can definitely let us know that what else you would like to discuss. So today, just to recap quickly, we discuss what strategy should be, what is your target, what are the key things you have to look around to make your first move, because we took a running example. In order to finish a marathon, you have to take a first step. And in order to take a first step, you have to prepare something to make sure that based on your available information, what is the next best approach? Take that, create your perspective around it, start working on it, experiment it, see how the thing's working, what needs to be make better on it, and then do those, I would say, malleable things or agile things to develop that. And obviously, in the terms of landing, we discussed that simplify your language, understand your audience, and try to craft your message based on the audience, and importantly, what's in it for me, which you have to understand as a human being. If you are empathetic, that how you have to land the message in order to make sure that people understand their own interests and be motivated and try to execute them. So these are one of the things we discussed. And obviously, you have to make sure that if you're talking in the corporate world, whatever your vision is, work with your different subsidiary leads, give your vision, give your North Star, and let them empower them to create their own strategy. And then come back and discuss, brainstorm, and see what is I think there's one thing I would like to add, maybe like in all these conversations, if there are common things which works for everyone, we can bubble up as a common strategy. And then obviously, we can try to have their own custom version. So far, the leaders have the confidence and in their own subsequent action. And again, this would be iterative based on their own location. So if you are a lead, if you are area manager, you're a country manager, whatever, you can also iterate in the same way. You have a vision, you have your own strategy, you know the people, you can create actions and continue doing that. I think that's one of the many ways I would say to land strategy effectively. Yes, you have anything to add?
One thing I mean, two sentences, they keep repeating it in our head every day, right? Before the start of day, end of day. Instead of telling, I have a great strategy which needs to be executed, we start telling, I possibly have a great strategy. I need to make sure that it is correct.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Great verse. Yes.
We can only say when we have great strategy if we are God.
Yes, exactly.
As far as I know, none of us are.
Yes.
So I think that humility or connected to reality will help us get a better strategy or a good strategy which will work. And it's an evolving thing. I think that's the key point. When you said iterative, right? We have to evolve.
Yeah.
It keeps on evolving. It cannot be static. If it's static, most probably it's not good enough.
Yes, exactly. Cool. I think a great way to end today's conversations. We continue bringing a lot of these conversations, brainstorming sessions, because again, as I always mention, Let's Talk is not always giving you solutions, but directions. Empower yourself to develop a critical thinking and think of yourself, because I think that's the best way of learning. Asking right sort of questions and always be curious and ask better and better questions as you go along. And again, when I say better, what's better question from your context, not from the world context, because everyone is in their own journey. So that being said, Kumaran, thank you again, as always, for providing some of the feedback. We'll continue having these conversations in the future as well.
Welcome. Good catching up with you.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah.